Yo! Hello guys, what are you guys doing?
Hey, we found an interesting website which is a falling ringgit, a rising cost. The price Malaysia pays.
Wow, amazing! What is this about?
Yeah, it shows how falling in ringgit affect our daily cost in Malaysia.
Okay guys, let me explore it together.
Over the past decade, the depreciation of the Malaysian ringgit has become one of the frequently discussed economic issues, particularly in relation to the rising cost of living and price stability. As an open economy that relies heavily on imports, change in the exchange rate affect the price of goods faced by consumers. Therefore, this website choose to examine the relationship between ringgit depreciation and the consumer price index in order to understand how change in currency value influence inflation and the cost of living in Malaysia.
The purpose of this website is to understand how the depreciation of the Malaysian ringgit affects the cost of living in Malaysia. Malaysia depends a lot on imported goods such as food, raw materials and production inputs. When the ringgit weakens, the price of imported goods usually increase. This can lead to higher prices for consumers, which is measured using the Consumer Price Index or CPI. This website focuses on the period from 2015 to 2025 to see how the changes in the ringgit are related to change in inflation. This study has three main objectives. First, to examine the trend of the Malaysian ringgit from 2015 to 2025. Second, to analyze changes in the Consumer Price Index during the same period. Third, to compare the movement of the ringgit with changes in CPI to better understand their relationship. At the same time, the study considers other factors such as government policies, global price changes, and major events like the COVID-19 pandemic. Overall, this study aims to explain how exchange rates changes affect prices in Malaysia in a simple and easy way.
Now, I will explain the trend of the Malaysian ringgit to USD dollar exchange rate in Malaysia over the past 10 years and why this trend is important. The table beside shows the Malaysian ringgit to USD dollar exchange rate from 2015 to 2025. Overall, the data indicates an upward trend, which means the Malaysian ringgit has generally depreciated against the US dollar, despite some short-term fluctuations. From 2015 to 2017, as shown in the tables, the exchange rate has increased steadily from around 2.90 to 4.30. This reflects a continuous depreciation of the ringgit over these 3 years. In 2018, the table shows a decline in the exchange rate to about 4.03, indicating a temporary appreciation of the ringgit. However, this improvement was short-lived. In 2019 and 2020, the exchange rate increased again, showing renewed depreciation, particularly during the period of global economic uncertainty caused by the COVID-19 pandemic. In 2021, the table indicates a slight decrease in the exchange rate, suggesting brief stabilization of the ringgit. From 2022 onwards, the table shows a sharp increase in the exchange rate, which with continued depreciation in 2023 and 2024. Overall, although the table shows some short-term recovery in certain years, the overall trend over the past decades reflects a weakening ringgit, which has important implications for Malaysia inflation, cost of living, and also economic stability.
Next, I will continue with the CPI. The Consumer Price Index or CPI is the main indicator used to measure inflation in Malaysia. It reflects changes in the average prices of goods and services commonly consumed by households such as food, transportation, housing, healthcare, and also education. Therefore, CPI is closely linked to the cost of living and purchasing power of consumers. In Malaysia, CPI movements do not remain constant over time. There are periods when inflation is relatively stable, as well as periods when prices increase or decline significantly. This indicates that inflation is influenced by both domestic and also external economic conditions. During certain years, inflation in Malaysia increased due to higher production costs, rising global commodity prices, and also stronger domestic demand. At the same time, A weaker ringgit has contributed to higher import prices, especially for essential items such as food, fuel, and intermediate goods. This situation can place pressure on consumer prices and household expenses. However, inflation in Malaysia has also experienced sharp declines, including a period of negative inflation. This usually occurs when economic activity slows down, consumer demand weakens, and global prices fall. Such conditions reduce price pressures even if the exchange rate remains relatively weak. In recent years, inflation has shown signs of moderation. This reflects the role of policy measures, including monetary policy decisions by Bank Negara Malaysia and government interventions such as subsidies and price controls, which help to cushion cost of living pressures. Overall, inflation in Malaysia is not driven by a single factor. While exchange rate movements do influence price levels, CPI changes are also shaped by domestic demand, global economic conditions, and also policy responses. Understanding CPI trends is therefore crucial in assessing the real impact of inflation on Malaysian households and the overall economy.
Next, I will explain the relationship between the exchange rates and the inflation rate, measured by the Consumer Price Index or CPI. In an open economy like Malaysia, the exchange rate plays an important role in influencing inflation. When the ringgit depreciates, imported goods becomes more expensive. Since Malaysia relies heavily on imports for fuel, machinery and intermediate goods, higher import costs are often passed on to customers in the form of higher prices. This process is known as imported inflation. As a result, a weaker exchange rate can lead to an increase in CPI. Even if domestic demand remains stable, the type of inflation is usually classified as cost-push inflation because prices rise due to higher production and input costs rather than excessive consumer demand. However, the relationship between the exchange rate and inflation is not always one-to-one. Government subsidies, price controls and weak demand conditions can reduce the impact of currency depreciation on inflation. For example, during certain periods, Malaysia experienced a weak ringgit but relatively low inflation due to fuel subsidies and subdued economic activities. In conclusion, while exchange rate depreciation tends to increase inflation through higher import costs, the actual impact on CPI depends on domestic policies, economic condition and the structure of the economy.
The website has a positive impact on readers by helping them better understand the relationship between the depreciation of a Malaysian ringgit and changes in the cost of living in Malaysia. By presenting economic data in clear tables, line graph and simple explanation, the website makes complex economic issues easier to understand, even for readers without a strong background in economics. Overall, the website encourages readers to think more critically about the economic challenges faced by Malaysia. It highlights the importance of monetary, fiscal and structural policies in managing exchange rate volatility and controlling inflation. As a result, readers are better equipped to interpret economic development and appreciate the role of policymakers in protecting household purchasing power.
This website finds that the depreciation of the Malaysian ringgit influences inflation and the cost of living mainly through higher import costs. However, the relationship is not consistent as inflation is also affected by domestic economic conditions, government policies and global price movement. Therefore, exchange rate movement are an important but not the sole factor shaping inflation in Malaysia. Effective policy measures are essential to maintain price stability amid exchange rates volatility.
We hope you enjoy our website and find it meaningful.
That's all from us. Thank you.